this is Nicole of Healthy Pet, and talking about family-owned businesses or different dog food companies and dog food supplies that are maybe more on the smaller side of things. A lot of companies will start off as a family business, and then as they grow and expand, they get bigger and they bring in investment money, and they're still family owned but with investment money, or at some point they eventually sell out. The reason that I wanted to make this video real fast, as a quick aside, is I started seeing some headlines on stories about the Mars company had some recalls and some bad press for having a dirty cannery, and it's in the news that they had different types of things that they were supposed to fix. They didn't fix it, and the conditions for their cannery were less than stellar. So that got me thinking about just how much the pet industry has changed. The big players in dog food, cat food, and supplies are Mars, Nestle Purina, Smuckers, and Procter & Gamble, no, not Procter & Gamble anymore, but Colgate-Palmolive, and the newest one would be Quaker Oats. How these brands are seen every day in our grocery stores and drugstores for our products, and then they have bought into the pet industry. And when that happens, sometimes they let the subsidiary that they just purchased continue on the way that they were and are more just a passive owner. Sometimes they go in and they do make some changes, and that culture of however they do integrate does seep down into the brands, and that's not a knock one way or the other, but it's something to be aware of, and it's something that I think customers do like to know if their products are still like family owned with that kind of culture and that sort of importance, or if it has gone more the corporate route, or where it is on this ever-changing spectrum.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I enjoy working for Healthy Pet is, we're a small business too, and I, with my cat food and most of my dog food, tend to shop towards local and small businesses because you get a lot more face-to-face. Like, there's more reputation on the line, and that gives me sort of a comfort. And also, if there is an issue, like when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to somebody that's, pretty high up in the company, so you know that your feedback goes right to the important people.
Yeah. So some of these companies, so two things to that. Some of these companies, when you call them, you're calling and you're talking directly to the owner. But what Ian was saying, as far as shopping retail, when you shop someplace more local, you're talking to somebody who cares and is knowledgeable about the products. So sometimes you'll end up calling a place and they'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll give you a refund. And that doesn't really help you if you have an animal that is sick or doesn't like whatever it is that you're feeding them, and you need something as far as information or options, and having a resource. And that's what we value too as a store, going to the manufacturers and having that resource to get the information that the customers need, that our clients need to make the best decisions for their pets. So, yeah.
Also seeing familiar faces, that's my biggest thing. When I shop local, I love seeing the same person all the time, because then they ask you, oh, how'd that work out last time you got it? And you can actually sit there and tell them, and it's like a bond that you get with them. That's my big thing.
Much tighter relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So with that in mind, we're just showing a couple of the brands that, again, there is always a spectrum as far as how much of it's family owned and how much of it is completely investment banker owned. And these companies are still, family is involved with the business and making all of the key decisions and really running it, and I think that's fabulous. And when you look at these companies, you'll also see that these companies also, anything can change at any time, but they haven't had a recall. Right? With some of the dog food companies that are still family owned, they really don't co-pack or make a bunch of food for other people. So that's another place where companies can get into trouble or have issues with recalls. And Avengers, their family was involved and they still had a recall, and all sorts of things going on. So it's not a guarantee, but it is still that peace of mind as when a company is doing it right, that you're getting what it is that you think you're getting. From is like our number one family-owned business, so still made up in Wisconsin. They just came out with the Rancho Rosa formula. They have the dog food, the cat food, canned food, dog treats, cat treats. This works, not cat treats, dog treats. But this food works really well for dogs that are finicky and picky, and we have a lot of people who start their puppies off on this. They actually use different kennels to test their food and palatability to see how it actually feeds out, as opposed to just trials or saying, hey, we hit these ACO levels. They actually want to see how the dogs respond to it and how well they do with it.
Yeah.
And have you ever used Fromm products?
Yeah, my super picky cat loves this stuff.
My hedgehogs eat it too.
Yeah,
They love it.
It's a really good food. And like her coat, when I switched her to her, cleared up. Like she's like velvety now ever since I switched her to Fromm. So
That's
a
nice.
really great food.
Yeah.
They have some cool flavors too.
Yeah,
a lot of
they
variety.
do nice blends. Now, their formulas are not necessarily geared towards limited ingredient, but we do have other family-owned businesses that do. But just when your animal can have that variety, they do really nice varieties that you can rotate through. And as Kayla was saying, she feeds her hedgehog. Some people will feed ferrets, and then obviously cats, dogs, people with pet raccoons, which isn't necessarily encouraged in Illinois, but Fromm is a good choice for that too. Moving over into chews, there's Front Porch Pets and Snooks. We love Snooks. They have these great dehydrated sweet potatoes. They cut out the circle, or they like pop it out and put it onto this hemp rope so that it makes it a little bit more of a challenge for your dog to chew it. I'm not going to say that this is going to last as long as like a raw bone. It's not, but this will definitely last longer than a bully stick would. And with the chewing and the mechanical agitation, it's good for the dental, it gets the saliva going, and it's not as calorie laden as a bully stick would be.
And speaking of one of those companies that's really face to face, when I placed the order for some of the Snook stuff, I wound up speaking to somebody that actually picked some of the sweet potatoes.
Oh wow!
And they were
yeah.
like, "Oh, this is a really good crop this year." And when it showed up, it looked good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. I know that when, like the picture that's here on the cover with the lady with her dogs, chances are if you call them, you're actually going to talk to her, and that she is one of the owners with her family. Another company we really like is Cocoa Therapy. This is also Oscar Newman. They're based in Batavia. The family who makes this, their family actually owns the coconut farms in the Philippines, and the family that's based here travels over there, and they have that connection, and they actually know how it's being processed. And that's something that is always concerning, especially with some brands where they're so big, and honestly when they're so cheap and you're like, what can you tell me about this? And staff, I don't know, it says coconut oil. But it doesn't tell you if it's cold pressed or how it's processed, how it's any sort of clarification process that they do, any sort of testing to see if it actually has lauric acid or the MCT, like what levels of any of these things to get any sort of benefits out of it. And when you open up the Cocoa Therapy and the way it smells, and if you ever taste it,
Awesome.
I mean, there is definitely a difference between this and some of the other brands that you might see every single day. That said, price point wise, it's very similar to a couple of other brands that are also very high quality brands. And when you start looking at comparable qualities and then looking at the things that are less expensive, you can totally tell the difference. And I think that's pretty amazing. And again, with them, we just love the fact that we know the family. So that's very
Yeah, they
cool.
come in a lot, and just if they're shopping, they just sit there and educate us. I'll ask them how their family's doing, and they'll tell us like, "Oh, I just came back from the Philippines like a couple days ago." So they go all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that went over into coconut oil. They do make some treats there. Going back to Snooks, they do make a couple of different supplements beyond just their sweet potato chews. And then we have just a couple of biscuits. So there's the Mrs. Beasters. These kind of look like they came out of a Play-Doh machine, the way that they come out. I just love the fact that like they have that very homemade look to them. They're just little thin sticks. Dogs seem to like them. Do you have any comments on anything that we've talked about so far?
I know the bee pollen products, buying locally with that is pretty important. But that has been a pretty popular thing. People have been asking about that a lot this year.
I guess
That's what I
One
learned.
thing to mention about bee pollen and honey in general. Now, this stuff, it's from West Coast. There is some research that if you buy unclarified honey from your local region, that can help with allergies, which is awesome and fabulous. And we have a couple of local bee farms that you can go and visit and get those products. But in general, beyond that, there's lots of nutritional benefit to bee pollen, as opposed to kelp or any of the other types of multivitamins that you can get. With Snooks or the local bee farms that we have, bees are so important. I really like supporting any companies that actually take care of their bees. There's this great little documentary that I was watching about honey, and talking about how much the industry gets adulterated with just corn syrup.
Oh, yeah.
And knowing the company that you're getting it from, it's hard for small companies to mass produce and maintain quality, and same can be said for the mass producers, that it's hard for them to maintain quality, but when they have to put out so much to all over the place, things aren't always 100% what they say they are, and that's where you get recalls in the businesses. We don't carry honey, but anyways, the Snooks, they have the bee farm, so I think that's pretty awesome when talking about bees in general and honey, bee pollen. And then going to Bocce's Bakery, they come out with different formulas. Their newest one is the bedtime tea, which is pretty cute. Has vanilla and lavender in it, so it has a nice gentle scent to it. It's not going to put your dog to sleep or anything, but it is a nice little flavor profile with the vanilla and lavender.
I think cute is a good way to describe what Bocce's does. They have a bunch of interesting
They make some
flavors.
cool flavors.
Yes, they do. Sorry. I have some allergies going on. And then the last real company to mention, and again, these aren't like the only companies, but this is just highlighting some of the brands that maybe people aren't as familiar with, like with Bocce's or Small Batch, and then perennial favorites. From huge favorite in our area, especially probably because it's from Wisconsin, and they do so many things right there, and we just really love this company. Small Batch, again, they're from the West Coast in California, so most things are grown and prepared on the West Coast, so not just strictly in California or anything, but all in that area. So as far as things being made locally, you're not sourcing ingredients from the East Coast and flying it over to the West Coast. They do obviously have to ship it here to the Midwest, but these companies also try to minimize their carbon footprint, or making their business a little bit cleaner and greener to the best of their abilities, which I think is pretty awesome. So Small Batch, they have their freeze-dried patties, they have their treats or food toppers or food mixers, and then they also have their frozen food. So that's a nice little blurb to shopping local. And again, with just some of these brands, when they're owned by massive conglomerates, things can slip through, and we just like to let people know what are some of the local brands that you can ask for. And if one of the major brands that's owned by a conglomerate is working for your dog, we're not trying to knock them or anything, but just showing different options that maybe you're like, brand X is working awesome for my dog, but you know what? This looks pretty intriguing and I'd like to support that. We have those options for you to give you what it is that works for your pet and what works for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth.
No, we have a couple of these things on sale this month too, like the Small Batch is 20% off. So if you want to try it out, June is a good time too. But we'll have plenty in stock. So.
Anna Mae had a question. She said that her dog loves dehydrated liver treats, and what do we have that fits that?
Oh, we have a good selection of dehydrated liver, whether it's duck liver.
We have beef,
liver,
chicken.
Yeah. Northwest Naturals has a bunch of different choices, and they're still a smaller company that we like and like to support. I can't see them from over here, but I'm just like visualizing.
Come see them. We have tons.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we have a
Northwest
lot.
Naturals I really like. There's Pure Bites. Gimborn is one of the more well-known brands. But yeah, we have a couple of different ones, and there's new ones always coming out, and we do try to find those new ones to give always more selection and more choices of what it is that our clients are looking for their pets.
Awesome. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for watching, and at Healthy Pet, your dog loves you, we love your dog, and we hope to see you both in soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.